This is lecture 13. We're beginning section 20.4 in your textbook, so the last part of the chapter. And as you can see then on your lecture outline, we're starting on page 793, figure 20.26, upper right-hand corner, and we're looking at the structure of a ureter. Two things I'd like you to know about the ureter. First, as you can see from the figure, the ureter is mostly smooth muscle. And notice this is just something now to be jotted down in your notes. And number two, the second thing I'd like you to know about the ureter here, kind of related to number one, I would like you to know that peristalsis moves urine toward the urinary bladder. And you'll recall talking about peristalsis, hearing about peristalsis earlier, actually when we were talking about digestive system. And so here now again we're saying peristalsis moves urine through the ureter and toward the urinary bladder. Next on your outline, looking at the urinary bladder, page 795, figure 20.28. And here, notice first, upper right-hand part of the A part of the figure, locate the detrusor muscle, and just realize this is the specific name of the muscle of the urinary bladder. So the detrusor muscle, again, this is the specific name of the muscle of the urinary bladder, the muscle that makes up the wall of the urinary bladder. I'd also like you to notice on this figure, there's an internal urethral sphincter. And I would also like you to know that this structure prevents the bladder from emptying continuously. Again, this internal urethral sphincter prevents the bladder from emptying continuously. In terms of the urethra, figure 20.31 on page 797. You might want to note, or at least keep in mind, that you know from A&P 1 that the urethra is longer in males and in males carries both urine and semen. And again, then recall from A&P 1, this makes the urethra in males both a urinary organ and also a reproductive organ, or a urinary structure, let's say, and also a reproductive structure. And in females, correspondingly, Recall that the urethra is shorter in females and has no reproductive function. Notice also then in both parts of figure 2031, so female, the A part of the figure, male, the B part of the figure. Notice in both males and females then there's a point at which the urethra is surrounded by an external urethral sphincter. And when you have that in your notes, take just a minute and make sure you're seeing that external urethral sphincter in both diagrams, and of course controlling urine flow in both females and males. And then finally, back to your lecture outline, notice the last thing we're talking about in this chapter is micturition. And micturition is just another term for urination. And three things to know about micturition, about urination. And so the first is that the filling of the bladder to a certain level, again, the filling of the bladder to a certain level causes the internal sphincter to relax. The filling of the bladder, again, to a certain level causes the internal sphincter to relax. The second thing to realize in terms of micturition, in terms of urination, is that the external sphincter remains contracted until the decision is made to urinate. Again, the external sphincter remains contracted until the decision is made to urinate. And third, when we're at this point, when we decide to urinate, the detrusor muscle contracts and expels urine through the urethra. And this then concludes lecture 13. This is the end of chapter 20. So sit back, relax, pat yourself on the back. Good job. And so here once more, let me just step back and say that I do hope everyone is still well out there. I'm sure you're dealing with everything as well as you can, and our individual concerns in some cases vary from one person to another. But certainly a concern of all of you guys at this point is, let me get through this course. And please do let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. And at that point, I'm going to sign off.